What's going on, everybody? Aiden from Birds vs. Boys here, coming to you after the Chiefs get revenge from the Super... No, they didn't. No, they didn't. You dickheads. Let's get into it all. Eagles win the revenge game from the Super Bowl a year ago. The Eagles win in Arrowhead again. So let's just start here. I know we're going to talk a lot about the offense and everything going on and a lot about this game, but there's only one place that you can start. Jalen Hurts has now beaten Patrick Mahomes 3 straight times. The only loss was the Super Bowl in 2022. He is now 6-1 against the core 4 of Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. He has not lost to any of those quarterbacks since that Super Bowl in 2022. Listen, we're going to get into all the game. We're going to talk about the offense, everything like that. But he's just a winner. They just keep winning. They have won every game that he has started and finished since the end of last September. It's almost been 365 days, a full calendar year, since a Jalen Hurts quarterbacked Eagles team has lost a football game. They are 2-0 after going into Arrowhead and getting this win. And as much as I'd love to rant and rave about the offense and Jalen Hurts and all that, we have to start officially, in a non-joking way, with the defense, because what an absolute dog performance that was. And going into this game, I said this, when this schedule came out in May and you knew you had to go to Arrowhead for this revenge game against the Chiefs, you thought to yourself, hey, if there was any game statistically on the schedule that is most likely to be a loss, it would be this one. Well, things changed quickly once the season started. Rashee Rice got suspended. Xavier Worthy injured himself. They were 0-1 after week 1 in a game against the Chargers where they did not look like the Chiefs. And we said, if you rip the logos off of their helmets and said to yourself, watch this team play, watch the film of this logoless team, you would say that this is a game that the Eagles should and could win. So it became a lot less likely over the past week and a half that you're worried that it'll be a loss based on where it is on the schedule and more confident that they could win this game. It was still grueling. It was still gritty. It was very tough. It was a very hostile environment, I thought. I thought the crowd was awesome there in Kansas City today. It was very hot, but the defensive performance against a lackluster offensive firepower for the Chiefs absolutely balled out. And I'll tell you what, why that's also a huge win for the Eagles. Last week, we were a little bit worried about multiple position groups. It was amplified by the fact that Jalen Carter was ejected before he even got to play. The D-line gave up more rushing yards than you expected last week against the Cowboys, so that was a problem of concern. You weren't getting the pass rush that you were accustomed to, which was also a concern considering who you lost in this offseason, and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham. And then, obviously, in the back end, you had new starters that you thought it might be a struggle early on, and it was. When Adoree Jackson is your CB2, and then at your starting safety position. That's called foreshadowing. If we're doing helmet stickers like they do on College Game Day Final, Andrew Mukuba, the starting safety, who's now for sure your starting safety, is getting one. But I think you got way better returns this week. I know that they're kind of a downtrodden offense these days, but you got way better returns from this defensive positional groups than you did a week ago, which is what you want to see is constant growth over time. Well, let's start with the defensive line. They were awesome. We figured Isaiah Pacheco has been splitting time with Kareem Hunt because they just can't get that run game going. Mahomes has been their best rusher. That was the case again today. They could not establish a run. And we got a lot more pass rush today. It felt like somebody was constantly winning, constantly in the backfield. And I'll tell you what, Vic Fangio, A++. He is fired up by his fills, absolutely putting a dagger, no pun intended, into the Mets in the NL East race, and he was fired up this week and said, you know what? I'm changing it up. We're throwing 102-mile-an-hour gas like Johan Duran at Patrick Mahomes at all times, using his linebackers as heat-seeking missiles, which is what a gift to be able to do that with Jahai Campbell and Zach Baum, but you're constantly bringing pressure with those linebackers, worried about where the pressure was going to come next, and because of that, I thought a lot of guys were winning one-on-one reps. Good to have Jalen Carter back. He is the same Jalen Carter. Looked like he was dealing with a wrist injury that whole game and was still incredibly dominant up front. Jordan Davis, again, great returns early, down 15 pounds. We joke about people when they're in their best shape of their life. Everyone's in the best shape of their life in June until they put a helmet on in September. Well, Jordan Davis truly is playing the best football of his life, in the best shape of his life. He was great. And probably most importantly, for the course of this year on this defensive line, Za'Darius Smith came to play. He was on that team starting Monday, and by Sunday, he was making an impact. He had half a sack, but I also thought he set the edge in the run game incredibly well. It's good to have some beef at that defensive end position, and I thought the key to the game, the one player on that edge that I haven't talked about yet, Nolan Smith, on a 4th and 2 to start the second half, the Chiefs on their own 35, 40-yard line. It felt like they were sending a message that they wanted to big dog you coming out of the half and take over that game when it was tied 10-10 at halftime, and they got the ball first. They go for it on 4th and 2. Nolan Smith takes on 2 blockers, obliterates that play, strips Kareem Hunt short. We take over on downs. I thought that was the play of the game, considering the message that the Chiefs were trying to send in that moment, that they wanted to go alpha on alpha, mano a mano, and win right there. And Nolan Smith pretty much obliterated that by himself. That was incredible to see. Incredible defensive performance. And then, like I said with the foreshadowing, if you could give a helmet sticker for one guy today, it would be Andrew Mukuba. And I'll tell you what's most important about that is you got to live and learn. Because in that second quarter, he struggled a lot. There was a series where he had a penalty for holding on what would have been a sack for Carter and Davis, and he got run over by Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's humbling. That's going to be a real welcome to the league moment. When he's doing podcasts on the Exciting Mike's pod in 7 years, and they ask him, hey, what was your welcome to the league moment now that you're a vet? He's going to say it was when Patrick Mahomes ran me over week 2 at Arrowhead. But how did he respond? One, I love that they brought him on pressure. He had the interception off the drop by Kelsey at the goal line. That was a near pick 6 if it weren't for the hustle of Justin Simmons. And once again, a tackle for loss. He plays well around the line of scrimmage. He is a great tackler. We saw sound tackling from this group. We saw a cut down of penalties from this group. We saw pressure in the backfield from this group. And we just saw all-out pressure in general from these guys. Without Rashee Rice and without Xavier Worthy, how are you going to get the ball downfield? The only way that receivers that they had available to them could get open is if Mahomes could buy himself enough time with this offensive line. Vic Fangio did not allow that to happen with the blitz schemes that they were doing. If you look at Andrew Mukuba's stat line, incredible stuff from him. 6 tackles, half sack, tackle for loss, and an interception that almost was a pick 6. Again, credit to the hustle for Justin Simmons, or else this would have absolutely been a pick 6 there for Mukuba. And again, you're learning, you're growing. If Vic Fangio believes in you, I believe in you. You live and learn, baby. So, all in all, man, there's a lot of A-pluses to give to this defense. Overall, what a unit. They just big dogged them. It was awesome to see. Special teams. Talk about Dawgs, Jake Elliott. At the end of that half, a lot happened there at the end of that half right there. So the Eagles are on the plus side of the 50. They have a 3rd and 9. They convert it seems, because A.J. Brown rolled over the body of a guy. They don't review it. The clock winds down. I think the Eagles were thinking that they were going to review it. You then get a penalty, a false start because the long snapper moved the ball forward, which I've never heard in 30 years of watching football. I've never, ever heard that penalty called before. And he moved the ball forward. Jake Elliott and the field goal unit are still going to be in the same position. The length of the field goal is not going to change if he moves the ball forward. I don't understand why that's a penalty. I don't understand why it was called in that moment based on the replay. It was very confusing. It puts you in a 57-yard field goal attempt from Jake Elliott right down the fucking middle. Nails. Oh, my God. Just gas. Jake Elliott. It's good to have healthy Jake Elliott back. Like, it's fun to watch healthy Jake Elliott. He won't have the kick of the week thanks to Brandon Aubrey and what he did from 64 in a pure chaos game down there in Dallas. But, man, did that settle this team to get you into the locker room tied 10-10, and it just felt like they could compose themselves and get ready for 30 minutes of football. They got over the crowd noise, the emotion, the revenge game factor. It was 10-10 tie game at halftime. You could regroup and refocus, which they did. And again, that set them up to be ready coming out of the half, and the Chiefs go forward early, and you're ready, and you stomp them out. Thankful for Jake Elliott, and the special teams continues over the first 2 weeks to be two really, really good units there. Water break. We all got to stay hydrated, right? It was hot out there today. It was hot out there for all of us. We all gave it our all. Thank you to Kirkland brand Costco water for sponsoring this podcast. Now, the one unit where there's meat on the bone, a lot left to be desired. I don't even know if I can say there's meat on the bone. They are doing, the everything burgers, where it's not made out of meat at all. That's what it feels like with the Eagles offense so far. They were not that impressive today. I will credit the fact that I think the blitz schemes that you get from Steve Spagnuolo, you will not see anywhere else. And the Chiefs, my God, that they look like a team, like an 8-year-old playing Madden and just running in Gauge 8. So they were able to get a lot of pressure, but I think the overarching problem that we see with the Eagles offense right now is predictability. We know when they're going to run the football on early downs. Late in that game, as they were kind of trying to milk that clock, I would have loved to see them try to go for the pass. Off play action. They did it a year ago in week 2, and I know it didn't work well, but they have done that before. It gets very predictable in terms of run pass. And then Tom Brady brought this up on the broadcast. It feels like A.J. Brown just was running slants the entire time. It feels like that was the only. Tom Brady even said, he was like, literally, I feel like this is the only route that I've seen today. It feels like every episode of Catfish that you've ever watched, you're like, really? The person at the end wasn't real? Oh, man. Who could have seen this coming? Oh, A.J. Brown was running a slant to the inside? Who could have seen this coming? And after a while, I think if you're the corner, you're able to play that pretty effectively because you know where he's going. If you ever double move him, you could probably put him in a good spot. It is crazy that the Eagles have this embarrassment of riches and never seem to be able to scheme these guys open. So I think Jalen Hurts gets a lot of the brunt of criticism, but I really think Kevin Patullo today will get the general, we're splitting pie of blame on the offense. I think he would be number one. But in the end, as they always do, they got it done. They find a way to win. They never get too out of their realm, right? Like they're always present. They always feel like they execute when it matters most. At the end of that game, they knew they were running. They still get 9 yards on first down. When they came out in the first quarter, the first ones to strike first, it just feels like they when it matters most, they can get yards. I think there is a lot left to be desired, like I said, but in the grand scheme of things, they are 2-0 again. I think better utilization of A.J. Brown, at least trying to get him the ball. Early on, the play action play, which was my favorite play, it just wasn't a complete pass, was, a little play action, get Jalen Hurts on the move, and then he was finding A.J. Brown on one of his non-slant plays on the outside. It was a drop, it wasn't a great throw. It was also a drop, but it was good coverage too. But that was my favorite play of the game because it just felt good to see something different. And again, if you could ever figure out how to scheme these guys open, they're pretty damn good at catching the football. Because on an all-out blitz on third down, they throw it up, which is what you're taught to do, Jalen Hurts, which is a good job. All-out blitz, you have one-on-one coverage. Put that ball up there and trust your receiver. He does. The one big play they hit was Devonta Smith down to the 3-yard line, which felt like 2023 all over again when we played, where it was a lot of pressure. It was hard to score points, and they throw it up, and your one big explosive play is a deep ball to Devonta Smith. They hit that again. And A.J. Brown makes one of the catches. It won't be one of the catches of the year, but in terms of difficulty, his one-handed catch where he puts his arm up at the last minute, doesn't realize the ball is coming, and almost no looks a one-arm pass on third down. More remarkable A.J. Brown catches that I've ever seen. And there's a lot of them to speak of with him. These guys know how to catch the football in traffic. They are very good at it. And if we could ever figure out, if there's ever a spell that you could create at the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry to kind of get your opponent off of the scent, we'd be really good at scheming these guys open. And I think they would do a pretty good job if you could ever create space for them. We just never seem to be able to do it, and we seem to slog a bit. We feel a lot like a Wisconsin college football team. I feel like I'm watching ESPN2. You've settled in at noon. Wisconsin is playing Illinois, and you know they're going to run it. If there's ever a 3rd and 12, They're going to be running a draw and not making any mistakes throwing the football down the field. It can be a little tiring, but we got through it and we get another win and we're 2-0 and they did it, in what I thought was going to be a really tough environment and a place that they could slip up. So that was, again, it feels great to just be 2-0 in a game. Again, the most likely loss that they could have had was right here, and they answered the bell early. And a lot of guys on defense that are going to be important answered the bell tremendously. They ripped the logos off of the helmet and treated that team how they should have been treated, regardless of Mahomes being the quarterback. It is an A+++ performance from that defense, where all 11 guys played well. And it was even, Adoree Jackson, we're still struggling a little bit, but it was better than the week before. So we're making strides. That's all you want to see, right? Like if you're a runner and you run an 8-minute mile to start, well, if you're a runner and you start and you're running a 10-minute mile, and then you get it down to an 8.5-minute mile, you're feeling pretty good because you're seeing progress on your runs. That's how I felt watching the Eagles today. We made strides as runners. We're getting our time down. That's how it felt with the defense and with some of the younger guys on the defense. And I'll tell you what, one last guy to give a helmet sticker to. I don't know if you can give a helmet sticker to people who don't play. I think Vic Fangio, obviously, but there's a great video circulating of Howie Roseman watching the Eagles ice the game in the tunnel. And he's just the Iceman. Like, you see him celebrate from the tunnel. He looks like Bane about to walk out. And this man went Quinyon Cooper-DeJean last draft. And then this draft went Jahad Campbell, Andrew Mukuba. You put 4 defensive studs in your defense, round 1, round 2, back-to-back years. What a heist from the Iceman, Howie Roseman. Great game, great game. All right, and then one last talking point to talk about. The tush push. I can't believe we're still doing this. I think a lot of people were upset with the Eagles today, thinking that they were false starting or going early on the tush push. It's also, I feel like this just isn't that hard, given the technology that we have. The defenses are constantly lined up offsides on it. We had a situation where it's pretty evident that Jalen Hurts was in the end zone and it was a touchdown. We throw the challenge flag. On our longest pass of the day was from Nick Sirianni throwing the challenge flag. That was our longest pass of the day, was Nick Sirianni throwing the challenge flag. And on it, it looked like Jalen Hurts was in. The officials come back after the challenge and say he was not. I feel like it's pretty evident. You got guys lined up off sides. You're saying the Eagles are going early. This is for the officials to just figure out. Like, it's just not that hard. So the people complaining about it, and I hear Dean Blandino just be like, I'm done with the tush push. Like, it's just a tough play to officiate. It is, but it's not, because we've seen it so long. Like, this is just not a foreign concept. So the fact that officials are still struggling to be able to handle it is really just like, you guys got to be able to see that from the line. Are they lined up off sides? Did they go early? It's not that different from any other play in the grand scheme of things. Just look how they're lined up, right? Like, I just don't think it's that hard. Again, it becomes controversial, and I think these teams are going to just try to scheme it out of the game in the offseason by voting it out. And I'll tell you what, I don't even care at this point. It's just like, I can't believe we're still having debates on it, because every other team is welcome to do this. If it's such a tiring act for you to have to talk about, because the Eagles are cheating and going early and you shouldn't be allowed to shove people, and it's a health and safety code violation. Who cares? All 31 other teams can do this. The Chiefs had multiple opportunities today on 3rd and 4th and shorts where they could have done the same thing, but you guys don't. So if it's such a cheat code, I want to see 31 other teams trying to do it, and they don't. And how oftentimes do you see them get stuffed? So you can continue to complain about it, or you can get good at it, since it's clearly working for the Eagles. If you can't beat them, join them. Somebody's got to join in and start running this play like the Eagles do. If it's so hard to stop, dedicate practice time to it. Make it a factor in your offense. Think about guys you'd want on your roster who could play in this type of environment where you could pull off that play. So it'll be a talking point on national TV yet again, given how many times the Eagles ran it today. They had to run it a lot because this was a scrum of a game, but they got it done, as they always do. They're just winners. So I'm going to cap this show today with how I capped at the beginning. The Eagles win. They're 2-0. It has now been almost 365 calendar days since a Jalen Hurts quarterbacked Eagles team lost a football game. They beat the Chiefs. There's no revenge. They're 2-0. Win, 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 win. Just keep winning. All we do is win. T-Pain, Jalen Hurts. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. We'll be back this week previewing what will be a great matchup of two 2-0 teams between the Rams and the Eagles. 1 o'clock next week. That'll be a really exciting game. Another team in the Rams with revenge on their mind, and they looked pretty good today on the road. Puka Nacua, Devonta Adams doing their thing. We'll talk about all of that this week and more on what was a crazy, crazy day of football. We'll talk to you guys then, and thank you so much for tuning in. Go Birds, 2-0.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones.
Upset alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope. I'm going to drink bleach.
That it?
Be the team you promised me you were going to be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.